Firstpost reports from the world's second largest continent. Hello, I'm Alyson Grange. A very warm welcome from Durban, South Africa. We get you the news and the newsmakers from Africa. From elections to climate change to innovations and opportunities. As the world's attention shifts, we report from Africa, the heart of the global South. Join me every weekday live on Firstpost. Hello and welcome to Firstpost Africa, where we get you the top stories from the continent and from across the world. I'm Alyson Grange, coming to you live from Durban, South Africa. First, let's take a look at the headlines. Russian President Vladimir Putin accepts Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's invitation to visit the country, as both leaders reaffirm that bilateral relations remain unaffected by external pressure. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi set to visit India on Thursday. His trip comes as Tehran positions itself as a potential peacemaker between India and Pakistan following fresh tensions over the Pahalgam terror attack. Germany's opposition far-right party, the AfD, files a lawsuit challenging its classification as an extremist group by the Domestic Intelligence Agency, a label that allows for increased surveillance. Rwanda says it is in talks to receive immigrants deported from the United States, years after it signed a now scrapped agreement with Britain to take in thousands of asylum seekers. And the UAE rolls out artificial intelligence education across all government schools, including kindergartens, starting in the next academic year, as a part of the country's push to raise a generation fluent in tech. Hello and welcome. Our top focus comes in from the East African nation of Kenya, where President William Ruto's public address took an unexpected turn in what can be called a surprise showdown. Ruto was on a tour of Migori County in Western Kenya, a trip meant to launch new government projects. But while speaking about the cost of living, a shoe was hurled at him from the crowd. The 5-second clip has since gone viral on social media, showing the shoe hitting Ruto's arm amid speech. Now, his security team rushed to shield him, but the shoe had already made contact. The Kenyan government has called the incident shameful. Now, reports say that 3 people have been arrested, with police suspecting the incident being politically motivated. Authorities are reportedly pursuing more suspects. This chaos unfolded in Kenya's Migori County, a traditional stronghold of the opposition, led by the veteran politician Raila Odinga. Now, Odinga has contested and lost Kenya's presidency 5 times, most recently to Ruto in the 2022 elections. After massive tax reform protests last year, Ruto's government came under increasing public pressure. The bill, pushed by Ruto himself, included taxes on essential items like bread, cooking oil and sugar. The goal was to raise revenue and to pay off national debt. But the move backfired, sparking violent protests that left at least 60 people dead. This, according to rights groups. In the aftermath, Ruto's government entered a political cooperation deal with the opposition leader Odinga, a move that was seen as an effort to ease political tensions.
We undertake this commitment with the understanding that while our political parties may differ in strategy we share a common goal: to build a united, secure, and prosperous Kenya under a government that is capable, committed, and willing to ensure abundance and opportunity for all, without exception.
Experts say that this move is a tactic by Ruto to salvage his struggling regime. Since taking office in 2022, Ruto has faced growing discontent as taxes rise, inflation spikes, and living costs soar. During his latest rally in Migori, he launched a 298-unit affordable housing project in Kehancha. And this visit was seen as a strategic move to woo voters in a region that overwhelmingly voted against him in elections. The shoe throwing may have missed its mark in causing harm, but it landed hard enough to reflect the anger simmering against the president. Now, for more on this, we have with us Stella Agara, a governance and security analyst who is joining us live from Nairobi. Thank you for being with us, Stella.
Thank you for having me.
Stella, how does the recent incident in Kehancha, where President Ruto was attacked with a shoe, reflect the broader public sentiment toward his administration, especially in historically supportive regions like Western Kenya?
Indeed, it's quite, what should I call it? It's quite a message to the president. There are a number of platforms that the citizens of Kenya have tried to use to explain to him what they don't like about his policies, what they don't like about his presidency, but for some reason he's not listening to Kenyans. And I can see how desperate citizens are becoming because now they're resorting to actions like throwing shoes at him. Let it be noted very early in this interview that I am not in support of any form of violence. Indeed, I believe in very peaceful negotiation and addressing of issues. However, we cannot ignore the motivating factors behind throwing shoes. It's not every president in the world who gets a shoe hurled at them. There are a few examples, like President Bush getting a shoe hurled at him. In this particular venue where the President Ruto was, the former President Uhuru Kenyatta also got a shoe hurled at him. So it's not the first time a shoe is being hurled at a president in that area. And so this is the second time it's happening, but it's the first time it's happening to Ruto in this entire nation. The fact that this is happening in an area that was prior to this very supportive of his candidature, it's basically just saying that he's losing favor with every single day that goes, especially because he has refused to listen to the citizens, he's refused to understand the language of the citizens, and he's refused to accommodate the thinking of the citizens, especially on things that are extremely, extremely critical to Kenyans at this point.
Right. And what are the main economic policies introduced by President Ruto's government since 2022 that have contributed to rising public discontent over taxation and, of course, the rising cost of living?
There are a number of policies that he has introduced that citizens have been very unhappy about. Alyson, you will remember in the conversations we've had on this platform since last year during the conversations on taxation, there are certain things that Kenyans were not happy about on the tax bill. We are now in another season of discussing the finance bill, and we are yet to get into the details of what is going to be coming out of that. But at least on the record, he has a fixation with creating new projects, branding new projects that then he will call his own. On the list of that includes the new social health insurance fund that Kenyans have been complaining about tremendously. There's the affordable housing fund and project that he has been doing, and this is the reason why he traveled to Kehancha in the first place, to go and launch some of those houses. And then, of course, there's the fact that he's just fixated in creating new projects. There's also should I call it blindness or deafness towards the citizens' call. He's tone deaf for some reason. He doesn't listen to what the citizens have to say. But Alyson, it's less about his policies than than it is about how he is running government. And so one of the issues that is on top of the list of Kenyans' voices everywhere is runaway corruption, and the fact that it has increased in his government. It is so obvious, it is so bold, and there's very few people who actually are held accountable for corruption. There's the issues of integrity and people not actually maintaining a level of integrity in how they communicate, what they promise, the deliverables they promise, and when they deliver them. There's the lies and unfulfilled promises, and this one is also a personal grievance with him, that he has been known to tell lies. He has been known to launch projects that will only take off the minute he's on the ground. As soon as he leaves, none of those projects are working. He has been known to tell stories about things that will not happen, and unfortunately, this is making citizens extremely disgruntled. Then there's the question of the deaths, Alyson, and I think this is the biggest factor that is causing everyone to be extremely disgruntled with him. The fact that he refuses to acknowledge and genuinely apologize for the deaths that have happened, and of course to take action to hold people accountable for some of the deaths that happened during the protest last year and during the course of his term. This is one of the things that is grieving every citizen in Kenya, that they are so fed up, none of them is actually willing to listen to anything he has to say.
Right. And Stella, how might this growing hostility toward the Ruto administration affect Kenya's political stability ahead of the next election cycle? And what role could the opposition or civil society play in shaping the country's direction?
You know, when diplomacy fails, violence normally prevails. We are at a crossroads as a country, especially because we are at a time when we are clamoring for different kinds of things. We really want to see some changes in the way our government is run, and we have a president who has proven to be completely tone deaf. Your question is extremely important, but Alyson, I need to point out that this shoe being thrown at him is happening right at the heels of an incident where a member of parliament was shot on the streets in Kenya. He was a member of the opposition, so it's going to tell me that it's not just the opposition, I mean the government that is in trouble. It's every representative in government that is currently on shaky ground. It puts Kenya in a very risky situation, because we've had histories of violence in our elections before. We have had histories of violence in our campaigns before, and we seem to have been led by a government in the last 2.5 years that really doesn't care about ensuring that they limit the situations that trigger the citizens into violence. Everyone is gaining more audacity as far as what they're doing to address their issues. If we do not create a space for citizens to actually vent, create a space for citizens to be heard and for action to be taken on some of the things that the citizens are saying they do not want, I think there's going to be a lot of trouble come our next election. Especially because Kenyans are not, I mean, this kind of situation is common in the entire region of East Africa, but the difference is that Kenyans are not the kind of people who will sit down and watch you run their country in the way you want. They have their voice, they earned their voice, and this is never turning back. So the ability to let that voice find its expression, and also for them to see that you are being accountable. Accountability is extremely key, and accountability and lack of integrity is the main problem that the government of Kenya Kwanza will have to face moving towards the next election. And they must carefully and intentionally decide that they will slow down violence. Otherwise, nobody will be safe, as you have seen happening in Kehancha in Kenya.
Right, Stella, thank you very much for being with us on Firstpost Africa.
Thank you for having me.
Shifting focus to Sudan, where the Paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, or the RSF, have escalated their offensive days after the Sudanese army recaptured the capital, Khartoum. On Sunday, the RSF struck Port Sudan for the first time in 2-year-long civil war. The city has served as the de facto capital for Sudan's military-led government after the RSF seized Khartoum shortly after war broke out in April of 2023. UN agencies relocated operations to Port Sudan, and hundreds of thousands of displaced people sought refuge. Port Sudan is located in Red Sea State. As per reports, the RSF strikes hit an air base, a goods warehouse, and several civilian facilities. No casualties have been confirmed. Regional officials say that the assault lasted around 3.5 hours. This is significant as the RSF, which controls much of Sudan's west and south, had not previously reached Port Sudan. The city had been widely considered one of the safest amid the conflict. As the civil war enters its third year, Sudan is effectively split. The army holds the center, east and north, while the RSF controls most of Darfur and parts of the south. The RSF has even declared a parallel government in territories under its control. The RSF's latest attack has been strongly condemned by Saudi Arabia. Egypt also warned that such strikes undermine efforts to restore stability in the war-torn nation. Reports indicate the RSF used 11 drones in the attack. Without access to fighter jets, the RSF has increasingly relied on drones for air power. The Sudanese government has accused the United Arab Emirates of supplying these advanced drones to the RSF. As the conflict intensifies, the International Court of Justice threw out a landmark case against the UAE filed by the Sudanese government. The ICJ has dismissed the case that the UAE is complicit in genocide in Darfur, as alleged by Sudan's army-backed government. The UAE has consistently denied allegations made by UN experts, US lawmakers and international organizations that it provided support to the RSF. The ICJ said it manifestly lacked jurisdiction to rule on the case. How the attack on Port Sudan and the ICJ's ruling in a landmark case could shape the course of Sudan's civil war, we'll bring you all the latest developments. And next we look at Africa's most populous country, Nigeria. Nigerian regulators and tech giant Meta are locked in a heated face-off. The row stems from massive data fines, which Meta has been ordered to pay over consumer data breaches. In response, Mark Zuckerberg's company has threatened to shut down Facebook and Instagram in Nigeria. The fine, amounting to $220 million, was issued by Nigeria's Consumer Protection Agency, the FCCPC, or the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission. The regulator cites similar accusations that Meta faces in countries like India, France, and Australia. It argues the company complied with their data protection laws without threatening to pull the plug. Now, recently, Meta approached a Nigerian tribunal, but its effort to overturn the decision was rejected. Court filings, reported by media outlets, state that to avoid the massive fines, Facebook and Instagram services may be cut off in Nigeria. Meta claims that the fines imposed in 2024 are unfair and insists it remains committed to protecting user privacy. The Silicon Valley powerhouse has until June to pay up or choose to stand its ground. On Saturday, the FCCPC slammed Meta's response, accusing the company of indulging in calculated tactics designed to spark public outrage and pressure the Data Protection Agency to back down. As of March, Nigeria had over 164 million internet users, and both apps are widely used in the country, with Facebook being the most popular. Will Meta follow through on its threat, or will Nigeria force the tech giant to comply? We'll continue our coverage. And our last story today is from the land of pyramids, Egypt. Renowned globally for its giant funerary pyramids, Egypt has announced a major effort to revamp the famed Giza pyramid. It's a site that attracts millions of visitors each year. Now, the iconic pyramids of Giza are set to undergo a $51 million revamp. The plan includes 45 electric buses running every 5 minutes, restoration of several ancient tombs, a new online ticketing system, and measures to promote animal welfare. Now, despite their popularity, tourists have long complained about conditions at the UNESCO World Heritage Site. They have called out poor management and unfair practices, and concerns have been raised over scams like inflated entry prices, fake tour guides, and aggressive vendors pressuring tourists to buy rides or souvenirs. Animal cruelty has also been a major concern. Attraction operators routinely use horses and camels for rides, often forcing them to work long hours in harsh heat without proper rest, food, or water. Recently, a PETA investigation uncovered shocking abuse, including animals beaten, left to die, and even dumped outside the site. It mentioned that animals are literally ridden to death and then dumped like rubbish. As Egypt tries to address these issues, not everyone is on board. Local camel and horse ride operators have reportedly expressed strong opposition, fearing the changes will reduce their income and visibility to tourists. Egypt remains one of the world's top tourist destinations, recording 15.7 million international visitors last year. But for the first time, it lost its spot as Africa's most visited country, with Morocco taking the lead in 2024. As Egypt moves to revamp its most iconic tourist site, can these changes help it reclaim its title as Africa's most visited destination? And that's it on the show for today. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.